Okay, so it's been a crazy 24 hours that started with an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And this video is about making a summary and analysis of everything that has happened since that moment. Not only what happened, not only questions that people are asking, but ultimately, where do we go from here? Now, I know for a fact that politics in general can be controversial and divisive. That is one thing. And I also know there are few political figures as controversial as Donald Trump. But regardless of what are your political opinions or stance, you would agree that what we just witnessed is unacceptable in every way. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I saw the video is that at that exact moment, Trump was looking to his right. In the video footage that we have seen, Trump is turned 90 degrees to his right. We hear the popping sounds. We see him bringing his hand to his ear and then dropping to the ground. Now, we know that the only injury he suffered was his ear being grazed by a single bullet, which is hands down being really lucky. Because I don't want to get into many gory details here, but if he had been looking forward, then the bullet would have gone right through the back of his skull, and this would have been a completely different outcome. So for starters, of course, in this era of misinformation and disinformation and so many conspiracy theories, some people are claiming that this never happened. Some people claim that this was staged. And one of the first concerns is the picture that Doug Mills from the New York Times took of the bullet at the exact moment it grazed Trump's ear. And I saw many times, many people asking the question, is this photo edited in some way? There isn't any audience or public behind, because we saw the video and we see a ton of people behind Trump. We see this picture and there's nobody. There's this guy. And this is about the camera that was filming the live stream right in front of Trump, and it was framing as well the background with the audience. But the photographers of the media were sitting right in front of Trump, and Trump was at a stage or a podium. So they were all pointing their cameras upwards. So every single photographer that took pictures up close, you see that the sky is the background. It's because of the angle from a lower point where the photographers were to a higher point where Trump was standing. And that's why you have the clear blue sky as background. In fact, there's a sequence from this photographer, Doug Mills, in which you see the bullet grazing Trump's ear and Trump bringing his hand to his right ear and then his hand with blood on it. And why do I say that you have to be careful with the conspiracy theories and all the doubts that this really happened? It's because of this. People asking, sure, it's not a shard of glass from the teleprompter. You know, the glass panels that you use to read your speech. Well, two things. Already there were people that made sure to share images and videos that after the shots, you can see that both teleprompter panels are intact. And the second thing is that you're trying to minimize the fact that a presidential nominee and perhaps one of the most heated presidential races in recent times had an assassination attempt. Because let's imagine that, yes, it was a shard of glass from the prompter. That is trying to minimize the fact that he was shot at because something had to break the teleprompter. But this is why I tell you that people are trying to come up with all sorts of theories that this did not happen, that this was some kind of Photoshop or AI, that this was planned or anything. And again, this is regardless of what is your political stance. This is regardless of what is your political opinion. I suggest that you assemble the facts that your ears and your eyes can see. And since right now we have so many cameras everywhere, not only from the media, but from bystanders, and you can have a good idea when things actually happen. The problem is that the mainstream media immediately try to downplay this and try to use some kind of vocabulary that is vague, to say the least. We got this, the Associated Press. Breaking, Donald Trump has been escorted off the stage by Secret Service during a rally after loud noises ring out in the crowd. NBC News, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after popping noises heard at his Pennsylvania rally. USA Today, Trump removed from stage by Secret Service after loud noises startles former president. Crowd. CNN, Secret Service rushes Trump off stage after he falls at rally. Okay, he just fell, according to CNN. ABC News, Trump rushed off stage after disruption at rallies. So many instances in which the mainstream media has been trying to downplay what already happened. Now, I want to highlight the work of Gary O'Donoghue, a blind BBC reporter who got a great interview with this man who was explaining that they had seen the shooter many minutes ago crawling on the rooftop of one warehouse nearby. And they were trying to signal the Secret Service, and they were trying to signal the police of what was going on. And thanks to that interview, we saw other videos popping up that this shooter could have been prevented in so many ways. I don't want to enter in the details of why this man could just reach that rooftop with a rifle without being spotted by the Secret Service or any other law enforcement official. I am not going to speculate on this, but don't you tell me that this feels suspicious. It is my understanding that Trump had requested further or bigger Secret Service protection and it had been denied. Well, this is the result because only by having drones scanning the area, it would have helped immensely in preventing this. Now, it's important to highlight things like this. In an effort to diversify the agency, Catherine Chittle, the Secret Service Director, aims to have 30% female recruits by 2030. Part of that effort has included allowing YouTube influencer Michelle Kerr to train with agents. So, Secret Service Director Kimberly Chittle, that is her priority. I'm not a specialist, but I don't think focusing on DEI and diversity is a good idea, especially when you are dealing with situations like this. But well, this is proof that Melissa McCarthy's movies inspire and empower women. That is a net positive, I guess. But now I was talking about the circumstances in which Trump survived this assassination attempt just by turning his head 90 degrees to his right. But among all the amateur investigations that we have, including this very interesting breakdown of the sounds and the echo and the zip of the bullets, which very accurately places the shooter where he was shot down, we also have the fact that this table shared by Luz and Spirit that maybe it was a gust of wind of barely 10 miles per hour that made the bullet just go 1 inch to one side. And we know that that inch was the difference between the current state of affairs and actual civil war in the United States. Of course, not every reaction has been crazy and deranged. Some people have been really level-headed about this, such as Nicole Shanahan, who is Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s running mate. When we treat our political rivals like they are the enemy of the state, we radicalize our country. I am very glad Trump is safe. The demonization of his image by the DNC and legacy media is responsible for the hysteria that is ripping this country apart. Now, having been on the receiving end of the DNC's campaign of lies, I know most of what they have said about Trump's danger is an absolute falsehood. My heart breaks for the family of the individual whose life was lost at the rally in such a violent way. Let this be a lesson to all political leaders. When you dehumanize your opponent and radicalize your base, you are responsible for the violence that inevitably ensues. Now, there's something that I need to talk about as well. And it's the pictures that were taken by those photographers that were right next in front of Trump. And those pictures, of course, depict something that Trump's detractors are finding suspicious. That how come that a man that has just survived an assassination attempt, that has just been shot, is standing, is raising his fist in the air and he's screaming, fight, fight, fight. Well, a couple things. I'm sure that he already had that pump of being in front of a crowd, which is natural. You're in front of a crowd. He was, in fact, telling the crowd that he needed no teleprompter because it was much better to go with that vibe of the crowd. And you already know that he had this bit of adrenaline and inspiration. That is normal in public speaking. But what happened once the shots go off? He's taken to the ground and then they stand, and some people are asking, why did they stand? Well, they had to walk away from the stage at some point, so that's why they had to stand. But the fact that he stood up and put his fist in the air and began screaming, "Fight, fight, fight," that is also part of the adrenaline rush. And of course, every person is going to react differently to this. And Trump's reaction, well, just tells you all that you need to know about his character. And again, this is regardless of what is your political opinion. One thing is for certain. This picture is for the ages. The composition in a triangle shape, the American flag almost upside down, the fist in the air, the angle of Trump's head while he's shouting to the crowd, this is just epic. There's no other way I can describe this photo. And the only other picture that I could mention is this one while he was on the floor. And it also speaks for itself. Such a strong way of depicting the moment of what was going on. And I'm going to leave with two things, one meme and one quote. The meme has to do with that 10 miles per hour wind that maybe saved Donald Trump's life. And this was shared by Hernan Cortez, Cyberpunk Cortez. Apparently, a 10 miles per hour gust of wind was blowing that pushed away the bullet from Trump's head. A divine wind, a kamikaze. And well, with the image of Shinzo Abe, and we don't know if an old friend protected Trump in some way. And the quote that I want to share is from Rob Wealth on X, which says this: "Gentlemen, you don't need a grand conspiracy to process what transpired yesterday. Here's how I see it. DEI hired agents, bungling their way through. Idiocracy in action. Then add in leftist zealotry. Someone convinced by years of media spin that Trump is the new Hitler finally snaps. Sometimes chaos just happens. No need for secret plots. The man is, fortunately, blessed." But again, I would love to know what you think about this in the comments. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy. Much love and bliss.